Hi, Eric here from AMP, back with another awesome Jeep Wrangler upgrade. We've already given this one a new set of front speakers and upgraded the soundbar with speakers as well. We've added an amplifier and we're really happy with the way the vocals and high end sound, but we're lacking that low end bass response. So today we're going to be installing a Phoenix Gold 12-inch subwoofer. But the owner of this Jeep goes off-roading and we don't want a subwoofer box that's going to be jumping around and banging around while we're having fun off-road. So we're going to be installing the Stinger Electronics Subwoofer Enclosure that mounts directly on the tailgate of the Jeep. It comes preloaded with the Phoenix Gold subwoofer that handles 400 watts RMS, 800 watts peak. So it's really gonna add some low-end jam to this Jeep. So come along with me as I show you how to add a subwoofer to your Wrangler. Before we get started, let's take a look at the tools we're going to need in today's install. Razor knife, ratchet, 10mm socket, T45 Torx, 14mm wrench, power drill, included 9mm drill bit smaller than 9mm, safety glasses, pry tool, and painter's tape. We're going to begin the installation by taking our pry tool and removing the interior trim panel that covers the factory wiring. So put your pry tool underneath the bottom edge and pry toward you. We're going to set this aside. For this next step, we're going to need some painter's tape and the supplied template. This comes with the subwoofer enclosure and has lines indicating your factory ovals here. So we've used a razor knife to cut out these holes so we can align them with the factory mounting locations. This big rectangle aligns with this large rectangle here. And now we can align with the 4 holes up top. Now with the template in place, we have the mounting locations for the 4 holes. We're going to mark the center of these 4 holes, and this is where we're going to drill our 9mm bit holes. For this next step of the installation, we're going to be using the supplied 9mm drill bit to drill 4 holes where the template indicates. We're going to go ahead and stop ourselves from drilling through the back end of the Jeep by taking some painter's tape and wrapping the drill bit about 1/2 inch down. So this way we're only going to drill 1/2 inch into the drill bit, and we're going to stop inside the Jeep before we end up on the outside of the Jeep. You're going to take either a hole punch and punch a center hole, or a smaller drill bit to drill a pilot hole. Then we're going to take the template away and we're going to use the 9mm drill bit to drill the final holes. Safety first. For this next step in our installation, we're going to install these nut certs. These are what are going to allow the hardware to go through our subwoofer enclosure and mount to the tailgate of the Jeep. If you have a nut setter tool like this, you can use these, insert, and simply attach them to the hardware of your Jeep. If you don't have this specialized tool, we're going to show you how to use the hardware we've provided to expand these nut certs into the tailgate of your Jeep so that they can receive the mounting hardware. Now we're ready to build our tool that we're going to use to install the 4 nut certs into the Jeep. Starting with the metal bolt, install the metal washer, the metal nut, the spacer with the teeth facing away from the nut, and the nut cert itself, and then thread this on till it's finger tight. So now we've created a tool that's going to replace this for us. If you have a nut setter, you would use this. We're going to use this instead. Now we take our custom nut setter tool and set that inside one of the holes. We take a 14mm wrench to hold the nut in place, and we use a 10mm socket to tighten the bolt. Now that that's nice and tight on here, we can remove the 10mm bolt. Once we take our hardware out, we now have a nut set here. We can go ahead and repeat this process for the other 3 holes. Before we mount the subwoofer enclosure to the tailgate, we do need to run the speaker wiring in for our subwoofer. So Connect your subwoofer amplifier speaker wiring and run through the factory paneling. We removed some bolts here to make it easier to route along the factory wiring. Up here along the factory wiring, we put a little bit of tape on the speaker wire to make it blend in better. Once we get it in place, we will go ahead and use some zip ties to tighten that up and keep it close to the factory wiring. Take the included double-sided tape and apply 2 strips of tape to the included foam. Then remove the backing and we're going to apply it to the tailgate to cover the factory wiring. Now we can remove the 4 5mm Allen head bolts from the back of our speaker enclosure. Now we're going to build 4 pieces of the mounting hardware that's going to bolt the enclosure to the back of the Jeep. So we're going to start with this metal bolt. Take a locking washer and slide that on, a metal washer, and a rubber washer. Once we have 4 of these, we're ready then to mount our subwoofer enclosure to the tailgate. This part of the installation is easier if you have a second person to help you or some sort of box to lift the subwoofer enclosure about to the right height. This way you can ensure that your speaker wires are the right length. We temporarily put the woofer enclosure in place, run the wiring through the channel, and now we know how long the wire is to reach the terminals. Our subwoofer enclosure has spring-loaded terminals, so you take your positive speaker lead, push down on the red terminal, poke your speaker wire in and release the terminal to lock the speaker wire in place. Then you do the same thing with your negative speaker lead and the black terminal. Push it down, insert your speaker wire, release the tab. Now your speaker wires are locked into place. Now we're going to take the 4 mounting bolts that we assembled earlier and use them to attach our enclosure to our tailgate. This is where it helps to have either a second person or some sort of box to hold the subwoofer enclosure about where you need it. We're just about ready to install our subwoofer into our enclosure. But before we do, we're going to take the polyfill that we include with the kit. We're going to line the inside of the subwoofer enclosure with the polyfill. That's going to slow down the airwaves in the enclosure, giving our subwoofer a little bit better bass. Now we're going to take our positive lead and connect that to our red terminal. Take our black lead and connect that to the negative terminal. Ensure that both voice coils are still connected, and now we can use the 8 screws that are supplied with the kit to reinstall the subwoofer into the enclosure. Now that we have our subwoofer in place, that completes the installation. And just like that, we've upgraded our Jeep Wrangler JK or JL to include a loaded subwoofer enclosure. We hope you've enjoyed this installation video. For more videos, check out our website or watch us on YouTube.